Tonight on Sports Night in Auburn, NFL teams went to war last weekend, and the Jacksonville Jaguars needed an army with a tank. We'll look at the best game of Tank Bigsby's young NFL career. From Columbia, Missouri, we'll look at how Auburn football fared against Mizzou, how they can find strength in the Blues, and according to Coach Freeze, how to play to win instead of playing not to lose. More from the gridiron to come. Before we go, we'll let you know what's on deck for Auburn men's basketball as the start to their championship chase begins next week. You know what time it is. Our chase starts now. This is Sports Night in Auburn. Auburn, Alabama, the best atmosphere in all of college sports.
He drives, it's lit.
Welcome to Sports Night in Auburn.
That ball is gone deep to the left.
Welcome to Sports Night in Auburn.
Sideline, going to the end zone.
Welcome to Sports Night in Auburn.
And welcome back to Sports Night in Auburn.
During Auburn football's bye week ahead of the Missouri game, Hugh Freeze's buzzword was execution, and rightfully so. My buzzword for this week is hello. Welcome to Sports Night in Auburn. I'm Vince Wolfram. Considering the troubles that Auburn has faced on the field and the amount of close games lost so far this season, Coach Freeze's buzzword seemed quite appropriate. With a week of preparation and rest, the Tiger showdown was set. 2-4 Auburn versus 19th ranked Missouri at Memorial Stadium. It was homecoming weekend for Missouri fans, and the first half was slow, but the second half was worth the price of admission. Auburn's third quarter offense was like a pizza delivery. Peyton Thorne politely rang the doorbell and put the goods right on Cam Coleman's doorstep. Honestly, young fella, that's how I would have danced if the pizza showed up to my house like that. Next drive, Auburn gets stopped on third down. Oscar Chapman punts to Mizzou. Real easy, simple, plain. Nope. You got to bring the ball, dude. Antonio Kite, scoop and score. This is a sign of hope, Auburn fans. 17-3, orange and blue. In the last 20 years, Auburn was 105-1 when leading by 14 or more points in the second half. Mizzou had every intent to make that 105-2. Missouri quarterback Brady Cook, who got injured early and came back into the game like a beast, found Mookie Cooper for a 78-yard pass that led to this touchdown that made it a 3-point ball game. And this Jamal Roberts score to cap off a 17-play, 95-yard game-winning drive, which gave Mizzou the lead. 40 seconds remained. Auburn had 4 plays. They went -8 yards, and that was all she wrote. Final, Missouri 21, Auburn 17. In a weekend that was a tough one for many Auburn football fans, one favorite came away with some positive news. Punter Oscar Chapman from the land down under was named one of Week 8's best punters in all of college football by Raise 8. He's the third among Auburn career leaders with 225 career punts, just right behind Damon Duval, who has 227 from 1999 to 2002. On Monday after the Missouri game, Coach Freeze took to the stand and talked about his frustration with the way the last couple games have ended for his Tigers. Here's Coach Freeze.
I mean, we have a young team, and they're learning and they're growing. But I do think we still play not to lose instead of, man, let's play to win. And truthfully, we probably are coaching that way some too. I feel the pressure of those calls of not being free to do what I've done for years, and oh man, we could screw this up, or we could not execute this correctly, and so those are all feelings that are real and legitimate, and probably have an effect on us not finishing games really well.
Eagle Eye Fount of Knowledge. Micah Farmer is with me in the studio now. Micah, you made the trip to Columbia on Saturday, covered that fourth quarter crumble. Would you agree with the comments that Hugh Freeze said on Monday? And if so, why?
I would completely agree. And one stat that I think a lot of Auburn fans would be surprised to hear is that Auburn actually leads the country in passes of 40 yards or more with 13. And so the explosive play potential is there in this offense. You've seen it. You saw it with the Cam Coleman touchdown this week. Go for more shots. Put the nail in the coffin of these teams, finish them off, pull out these wins. You're capable of doing so, especially now that the turnovers have been more so cleaned up the last few weeks. You really need to capitalize on these leads when you have them, and playing not to lose is the easiest way to lose. I would completely agree with that.
Yeah, in the offense, we've seen the production. And on defense, another guy we heard from was Jay Crawford, the freshman corner from Atlanta, Georgia, who had a solid outing against Missouri, solid enough to earn him a spot on the PFF SEC Team of the Week. So here's Jay.
I would say, I feel like I always had the abilities to do it. It's just I always needed to make that next step. And that next step was getting in the film room, getting with coach, just knowing the little things.
Just heard from the freshman. So, Micah, what'd you see from Crawford last week that stood out to you in film? Obviously one of the best prospects from Atlanta, Georgia coming in this year. What'd you think?
Yeah, this guy is sticky in coverage. He has great eyes. He can read the quarterback's eyes very well. But the thing that stands out the most is fluid hips. He can really match receivers back and forth on cuts. And Missouri has athletic, quick receivers, and he was able to mirror them a lot of this game. He's also very good at not having zone eyes and man coverage, which will get you in trouble quicker than anything else playing corner. Very disciplined, very athletic, and I think he's done a really good job so far this year.
All right, let's look forward to this weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. Auburn going to Kroger Field to take on the 3-4 Kentucky Wildcats in what could be a battle for the worst ranking in the SEC. Mark Stoops and BBN have lost 2 in a row. Last week, they got bogged down in the swamp against Florida, 48-20. I know Mike is excited about that one. And the week prior, they lost at home to Vanderbilt 20-13. Micah, who are some players to watch out for in the blue and white this week in Lex Vegas, as they're calling it?
Yeah, thanks for the shout-out, Vince. Gotta love my Gators. But as far as this Kentucky team,
All talk.
the main guy to watch out for is Deion Walker up the middle on the defensive line. This is a guy that has Vita Vea size and Aaron Donald finesse rush potential. Not ability yet, but it's the same style of player. And he is absolutely incredible on the inside. Probably going to be a first-round draft pick this season. Just a freak of a player. And sticking with freak athleticism, let's talk about Berrien Brown on the offensive side. This receiver can absolutely burn you. He is not the leading receiver on this team, but in my opinion, he is the most dangerous. You're going to need to get guys back. You're going to have to space your defense out more. It's going to leave other things open underneath as a result of that. So you've got to watch out for Berrien Brown down the field. And finally, J.J. Weaver off the edge leads his Kentucky team with 4 sacks this season and has really been instrumental in the teams they've been in, or in the games they've been in on the defensive side of the ball, capitalizing on a lot of the one-on-ones he's getting because of the stout interior of this defensive line with Walker and Octavius Oxendine. So J.J. Weaver, got to watch out for him as well off the edge. But those are the guys you really need to keep your eye on this weekend. Back over to you, Vince.
I want to hear a fun stat. My guy J.J. Weaver is a Kentucky native like myself. He's got 6 fingers. How cool is that? That makes for a guy on the defensive line you don't want to throw in front of. Big Blue Nation, hopefully, big blue skies to come. The Fouts forecast with Eagle Eye weatherman Brett Fouts is coming up right after this on Sports Night in Auburn.
I'm your weatherman, Brett Fouts. Let's look at the forecast for Auburn sports this week. Starting off on Thursday, Auburn soccer hosts Georgia for their all-Auburn, all-orange game here at the Auburn Soccer Complex. The high temperature that day is going to be about 85 degrees, but kickoff is at 6:30, so the sun will be on its way down, and those temperatures will be a little bit cooler at kickoff, likely closer to the mid-70s. As the game goes on, expect those temperatures to continue dropping, so it might be a good idea to bring a sweatshirt to cover up if you get cold. Neither rain nor wind should be a factor in this game, which means it should be a beautiful fall night for some Auburn soccer. Moving on now to softball, the Tigers take on Wallace State at 5:30 this Friday. Temperatures for that one will be similar to Thursday, as the high on Friday is also 85 degrees. Once again, those temperatures will be dropping as the game progresses, so keeping that sweatshirt from earlier might not be a bad idea. Wind and rain also shouldn't be a factor in this one. Lastly, softball has another game on Saturday, this time against Pearl River Community College at 2. The high temperature for Saturday, once again, is 85 degrees, and this one should stay warm all throughout the game. Skies will be mostly sunny, and wind shouldn't be a factor. That's all the time I have for you today. We'll swing it over to Maddie with some baseball news after this break.
Back on the diamond, baseball took a trip to the Sunshine State for a fall exhibition game against Florida State. Last weekend's sweep in Pensacola featured 2 victories over the Seminoles. The first game's final was 4-1 and the second was 9-5. The Tigers will travel again to Valdosta State in a 12-inning game on Saturday, October 26 at 2 p.m. Central. Now switching ballparks to catch up on softball with Vince.
Thank you, Maddie. Softball, they've gotten off to a strong start in fall play over the last couple of weeks. They've had a great home stretch with early season wins over West Georgia, Chipola College, Georgia Southern, and Northwest Florida State. Maddie was actually at the Northwest Florida State game, so let's take a look.
Back at Jane B. Moore Field to continue their fall ball exhibition games, Auburn softball faces Northwest Florida. This season, Auburn showcases some new faces, including 8 newcomers to the Plains this year, and co-head coaches Chris and Kate Malveaux, who have previously made their mark at Tennessee through being tied for the 10th most wins nationally and second most by an SEC team over their past 3 seasons. Auburn offense had a slow start today as the Raiders took the lead early in the second inning, but the defense was able to hold the Raiders to 1 run up until the 5th inning when Northwest Florida made another trip to home plate. Finally catching up, the Tiger offense put their only runs up on the board in the bottom of the 4th and 6th thanks to Abby Smith and Anna Wohlers, making the score 2-2. The 7th inning was a test for the Lady Tigers as they struggled to get those 3 outs, resulting in a 4-run advance from the Raiders. A scoreless 8th, 9th, and 10th inning put the visiting team up on top 6-2. When looking at the performance of these 2 teams today, I think the pitching speaks for itself. Northwest Florida featured only 1 pitcher all 10 innings who let up only 2 scores on 8 hits. The Raiders' Kaylin Hale ended the game with 3 strikeouts and a victory for her team. Auburn used 4 pitchers total, who collectively allowed 6 runs on 9 hits. The Tigers will resume exhibition play back at Jane B. Moore Field on October 20th at 2 p.m. I'm Maddie with Eagle Eye TV.
Malveaux have this team ready to play, and they have a nice home stretch to keep on getting better. On Friday, Wallace State Community College arrives in Auburn, and Pearl River Community College again on Saturday. Maddie, you've got more on Auburn soccer.
Still in the top 25, the number 11 Soccer Tigers had a busy week. After a rival match at home, Auburn walked away with a 1-1 tie against Alabama. A scoreless first half and a messy second allowed Auburn's Carly Thatcher a penalty kick. Cool under pressure, Thatcher shoots and scores for an Auburn goal. Next, Auburn left the back-and-forth battle on the road against Tennessee with their first win in Knoxville since 2015. This down-to-the-wire game resulted in a final of 3-2. The first to score, Carly Thatcher assisted Olivia Woodson, who was able to see the back of the net, but this would not be Woodson's only goal of the game. Coming back in the second half, Woodson took a solo shot and found some luck, putting the Tigers on top. Assisted by Anna Haddock, Sydney Thibodeau makes the winning shot from outside the box, and the Tigers head to Kentucky with another win. A scoreless draw against the Wildcats on Friday was a test for the defense, and they delivered. In the goal, Maddie Prohaska makes an impressive save and held the Wildcats to 0. With the SEC tournament in sight, your Soccer Tigers face 2 opponents this week. Back at home, Auburn faces Georgia on Thursday, October 24th at 6:30 Central. One last road test features a Sunday showdown against South Carolina at 3 p.m. Central. Back to Vince with Equestrian.
Do you know about Auburn Equestrian? Because if not, you should take a listen because they are on fire. I'm not kidding. Last Friday, the number 1 ranked Tigers beat number 7 South Carolina 14-5. They beat the Gamecocks in every single category, and they won in, frankly, very commanding fashion. Horsebacking off Friday's win, Auburn rode into a second W against an even higher-ranked team, beating the 4th-ranked SMU 11-6. Another day, another Auburn win in every single category. Plus, they got their lick back for last year's national championship ride when Auburn fell to SMU for the national championship. The schedule doesn't stop for Jessica Broswell and company as they compete against number 10 UT Martin. A lot of great competition on the way for the number 1. And Maddie, you've got some volleyball for me.
Catching up with volleyball, the Lady Tigers had a rocky week. This number 25 team traveled to Mississippi State on Sunday and left with a win and a few honors. The 3-1 victory over the Bulldogs showcased a strong game from Madison Shear. Earning player of the match, Shear was the star of Starkville with 18 kills, 3 blocks, and a 4.85 hitting percentage. Kaylee Edson also left a mark during Sunday's matchup and picked up Freshman of the Week along the way. Unfortunately, Auburn saw 2 losses to finish off this week. Last Wednesday, the Tigers sought a rival match on the road against Alabama in a 5-set nail-biter. Alabama was able to come out on top in a final of 3-2. Coming off of this loss, Auburn hoped to see a more promising outcome versus Tennessee on Sunday. This road series came to a close with a 3-1 loss at Tennessee. Your Lady Tigers are back home at Neville this Friday for their pink match versus LSU at 6:30 p.m. Pink Shakers will be available in support of breast cancer awareness. Then on the road again to Columbia to face South Carolina on Sunday at 1 p.m. Central. Now for my favorite part of the show, back to you, Vince.
You have got that right. And you said on the road again. And unfortunately, we are going to break. We're about to go to break, but I want to leave you with a trivia question to think about before we do. You may see this guy in a commercial break, so I got to get this one off before you can see him on there. Which Auburn legend recently signed a TV deal with ESPN? A, Charles Barkley, B, Cam Newton, C, Bo Jackson, or D, Frank Thomas? We'll have the answer when we return. Welcome back to Sports Night in Auburn. To answer the trivia question I left you with before the break, which Auburn legend recently signed a TV deal with ESPN? The answer is B, Cam Newton. Cam Newton will join First Take on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Chris Mad Dog Russo, and host Molly Kieram. The 2010 Heisman Trophy winner has come into his own as a media personality with his YouTube channel that has garnered over 1.5 million subscribers. A big-time move for Superman. On a very superhero note as well, the Auburn Gymnastic Tigers, they're soaring and flying into another season.
It may be getting cooler here in Auburn, but Auburn Gymnastics is just starting to defrost. Mark your calendars, the 2025 schedule has been released and the Tigers are set for a preview match on December 16th at Neville Arena. A few big competitors are already on the lineup with home meets against Arkansas, Oregon State, Georgia, Oklahoma, and LSU. Here's Micah with the action from men's tennis.
Well, the Auburn faithful are definitely going to be hoping gymnastics can make some noise, but how about a team making a racket in men's tennis? They competed at the HTE ITA Southern Regional Championships in Baton Rouge this past week, and it was a successful campaign for two Tigers as Billy Blades and Will Nolan took home the doubles crown. The Tigers have a short break to end October, presumably so they can enjoy spooky season, but are back in action both at the Georgia Tech Fall Invite and the Wake Forest Fall Invite from November 1st to November 3rd. While the men were on the road, the women were protecting the home court back here in Auburn, and for more on that, here's Maddie.
The Tennis Tigers hosted the Women's Southern ITA Regional starting the 10th through the 15th. And for the first time ever, all four semifinals singles in the ITA Southern Regionals are Auburn Tigers. The success doesn't end here. Starting with singles, Myrna Raffet earned a spot in the NCAA Singles Championship after dominating at the ITA Southern Regional with a singles championship. Angela Catoy is right beside Raffet with a bid to the championship in Waco, Texas. You'll see doubles champs DJ Bennett and Ava Ristar in Waco after earning their spot to the NCAAs from their regional win here in Auburn. The Tennis Tigers are currently competing in Hilton Head, South Carolina for the International Tennis Federation W35 this week. Micah, let's get into golf.
Let's get into men's golf indeed. Second-ranked men's golf was in Wilmington this weekend for the Williams Cup presented by Stitch. Josiah Gilbert led the Tigers to a third-place finish behind Arizona State and host North Carolina. Gilbert scored a 208 over the weekend, good enough for 8 under and third individually. Next week, Auburn will travel to Atlanta for the East Lake Cup, the last event for the Tigers until the season resumes in February. Now over to Maddie with the women's team.
Women's golf is currently competing in the Allie McDonald at Old Waverly in West Point, Mississippi. After yesterday's play in the opening round, the Golf Tigers are currently in 4th place with 11 strokes behind Vanderbilt and a 1-over on 289. Junior Katie Cranston leads the Tigers with a 4-under and a tie for second. Anna Davis and Ann Fernandez are both in the top 25 with ties for 16th and 25th. After this tournament, women's golf will be taking a break until their season picks back up in February with the Lady Puerto Rico Classic. Time to dive in with Micah on Swim and Dive.
Let's get right into the deep end indeed and talk about the world of swim and dive. The team competed at the UNC Wilmington Invite in Wilmington, North Carolina, and both the men's and women's teams defeated the Seahawks. They also competed at the SMU Invite in Dallas Friday, October 11th and Saturday, October 12th. Men's placed 4th behind number 4 Indiana, number 13 Louisville, and number 10 Virginia Tech. The women fared better, placing 2nd behind only number 9 Louisville. After the invitationals, the women rose to number 13 in the nation, with the men not too far behind at number 19. The next event for the Tigers is in Chapel Hill as they take on the not-ranked / number 18 North Carolina Tar Heels. Now on over to Maddie to get the show back on track. track and field, that is.
Another exciting meet for Auburn cross country. Brenda Cheptachir wins women's 6K B race with a finishing time of 20 minutes and 1.4 seconds at the Wisconsin Pre-Nationals. The women finished in 6th place in the 6K. The men finished 30th at the Wisconsin Pre-Nats in the 8K A race. Nexen Shabai had the fastest time for the Tigers, crossing the finish line at 23 minutes and 41.5 seconds. The Tigers take a break until the SEC Championship that begins on Friday, November 1st. Back to you, Vince.
Thank you, Micah and Maddie. We will most certainly be looking forward to that November 1st date. Going into our last break here, we've got another trivia question for you. Which current Auburn football player has been named a semifinalist for the Jason Witten Collegiate Man of the Year Award? A. Peyton Thorne, B. Eugene Asante, C. Luke Deal, or D. Jaron Thompson? Hold on to your answers until we come back here on Sports Night in Auburn. This is Sports Night in Auburn, and this is the second trivia question of the day. Which current Auburn football player has been named as a semifinalist for the Jason Witten Collegiate Man of the Year Award? The answer is letter C, Luke Deal. Listen to this stat on this line. Luke Deal on the season: 2 receptions, 3 yards, 1 touchdown. What a dog. The 6-year is putting on for the elderly this season as the captain of the Auburn Tigers. Congratulations, Luke. From the gridiron to the hardwood, Maddie got some updates from Auburn Hoops. Take it away.
Before we get into our favorite Auburn Tigers in the pros, I have a quick basketball update for you. On the men's side, the team has scheduled yet another charity exhibition game to kick off their season. They will travel to South Carolina to take on Furman on Sunday and transfer J.P. Pigsby first game as an Auburn Tiger. He will return to his former school. Proceeds from the game will benefit the Friends of Cleveland Park and the City of Greenville's park restoration projects. However, there will be no television or radio coverage for this game, so be sure to come back to Sports Night in Auburn next week to find out the final score. Finally, we talked about the men's team at SEC Media Days last week, but the women's team also attended on Wednesday. Head coach of women's basketball Johnny Harris and players Taylon Collins and Dayona Gaston traveled to Birmingham, where Coach Jay and Collins went on SEC Network. Check out a little bit of fun when Coach Jay talked about cooking for her players.
Recruits in, and so we were at my house a lot. We had
I know
a couple
you love
of
to
parties.
host.
Yeah,
Love to host. So what do you have? What do we have?
Oh my God, some of everything. Some of everything.
Oh, yes.
I let them make requests, and I just kind of grant their wishes between them and my staff.
What's your favorite request from Coach?
We've been doing some seafood boils lately.
Okay,
and that,
we got a fisher.
Yeah,
we got a fisherwoman over there. Yeah, Deanna can catch it for you. You can cook it, Coach.
and I can eat it. Yeah.
Thank you, Maddie. You queued it right up for us. We got Auburn Tigers in the pros. Literally crossed it over to us, and now we're going to head it in. And we're going to start with a little women's soccer. Going to Auburn alum Alyssa Melanson. This week, she was called up to the U.S. Women's National Team. How about that for Auburn soccer, Micah?
Yeah, great achievement. They've been playing well all year on the pitch, and great achievement for the left back to get called up to the national team. But now from the national team to the National League in football, the NFL, let's talk about some Auburn Tigers on the gridiron, and let's start with Derek Hall, who had his first career touchdown this week. Boom! Sack Kirk Cousins right there. Go over. Oh, that's mine. I found that. That's the ball. Offensive line pancake out of the way.
Step.
Touchdown.
Come on.
Derek Hall. That easy.
That's a big one. In Atlanta, too close. I bet the Auburn faithful was letting them know they love that. On to the next one here. We're going to take it across the pond, mate. We're going to talk a little Tank Bigsby, who had the best game of his NFL career. 4 touchdowns in his last couple of games here, Micah. How about that?
Yeah, he's been playing incredibly. You see him take it in right here. You've heard it's hard to stop a train on the ads. Well, it's hard to stop a tank, too. And the Patriots D-line found out about that. Here he goes again up the middle into the end zone for the second time on the day to extend the Jacksonville lead. And this is how they got their second win of the season, Vince.
Much needed, much deserved. Tank is the man. Auburn fans love to see that. On to the next guy. We're going to talk some Nehemiah Pritchett. Back to Seattle with this one. Micah, Nehemiah, how about it?
Yeah, how about it indeed? Draft pick this past year by the Seattle Seahawks. This is a guy who I definitely think has tremendous upside in the NFL, so great to see him get his first career start for the Seahawks.
Big time in the Legion of Boom. And next we're going to Bo Nix in Denver. He has been playing like a seasoned veteran over the last couple weeks, just growing and getting better in his new role as a rookie quarterback in Denver. Micah, how about this one? Swoop-diddly-doo!
Look at him go down the sideline, kind of that dead leg there. Still gets tackled before the end zone, but people have been saying Mo picks, but Bo Nix is showing Mo tricks as the season goes on and on this year. And he was up for Pepsi Rookie of the Week again. And then how about Daniel Carlson? How many points did he account for this weekend, Vince?
Well,
was it?
I know
all
the
of them?
Raiders. The Raiders had 15. And I heard my boy Dan the Man, he had 15 too. He has scored all the points for the Las Vegas Raiders, making his guy Tom Brady proud. And then the next guy, we're going to talk about his brother. How about that? Getting his first play with the 49ers from 59 yards to open the game, his first kick.
From deep range, Vince.
Look at that, right down the pine. Anders Carlson, his first game with the Niners, and he manages to put one through the updates. That's Auburn in the pros. And I know the NBA season tips off tonight as well. No Auburn players taking the floor just yet. But, Micah, you've got the update on the rosters. I know your head's been in the books here over the last couple weeks. Talk to me, my man.
It has been indeed. Let's start with the NFL. Former Auburn receiver Seth Williams was signed to the Dallas Cowboys practice squad, and edge rusher Carl Lawson was called up to the active roster for the Cowboys. Defensive lineman Marcus Harris was cut by the Texans, but then signed to the Patriots practice squad, so hopefully he can get a fresh start there. Then tight end C.J. Uzomah was signed to the Eagles practice squad this week, and Jack Driscoll was called up offensive lineman to the Eagles active roster as well. Then finally, forward Chuma Okeke was waived by the New York Knicks. A little bit tough for him right before the season starts. Hopefully he can bounce back with another team later this season. But now back to you, Vince, with Trending Tigers.
Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment of this show. We've got two Auburn alums that have been dominating in the league and letting people know. We love to hear from these guys, the first of which, Tank Bigsby. We said it. He had the best game of his NFL career, 2 grown man scores. Here's our guy, Tank, on the win.
Duval, we coming back home, man, to keep this thing going. This Tank Bigsby. I'm looking forward to it, man. Duval!
To our second guy, Big 58 on the Seattle Seahawks, Derek Hall, who you saw what he did to Kirk O'Chains. Returned that thing all the way for a touchdown, his first touchdown of his NFL career. And he had to let the Seattle fans know what the deal was.
What's up, 12? Man, it's Derek Hall here in ATL, man. It feels so good to get the dub, man, to get back on track. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming out, man. We love y'all. Let's get back home, man. Let's go. Go 12.
Derek Hall bringing the boom to end the show tonight. That's all we've got. Make sure to follow our social medias, which are linked in the description of this video. And if you haven't already, go watch our Auburn basketball special edition of Sports Night in Auburn. I'm Vince Wolfram. This is my team. Go on! Thanks for watching. Good night, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.